Hey guys, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing okay. Going to read through the majority of the article here. There's a link in the description. If you appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. But I need to give you a very severe trigger warning. This is about a mass rapist. It's going to have some details within the article. It's incredibly dark, incredibly evil. So you don't need to listen to this. If you feel that this is going to be too upsetting, which it will be for some, then please don't listen. But I am going to go through the details to quite a large extent. A former police officer who drugged and raped more than a dozen women over a brutal 13-year crime spree has been handed the heaviest ever prison sentence for a convicted rapist in Western Australia. He's been convicted and sentenced to 30 years in jail. He won't have access to parole for at least 28 years. But that's not enough. It's the longest ever, the heaviest ever prison sentence for a convicted rapist in Western Australia, but it's not enough. He raped 13 women over 13 years. He's been convicted of committing 87 different sex crimes. How many more did he commit that he hasn't been convicted of? 30 years is a long time, but it's not long enough. 13 rape victims. So I'm going to go through the details more thoroughly. Adrian Moore, the scumbag that we see in front of us, 52 years of age, was sentenced on Tuesday to 30 years in prison for drugging and raping 13 different women over the course of a depraved 13-year rampage. This scumbag, evil rapist, was a police officer. He was a serving police officer when he attacked 12 of the 13 women. He was found guilty of 87 different sex crimes in a trial that took place in October of this year. All 13 women gave evidence, and they all had to sit through video recordings taken by this evil piece of shit, this evil rapist. He took video recordings. I've got to say, these very brave women subjecting themselves to further trauma by partaking in the trial, to do what they could to help get a conviction. And they had to suffer through watching videos that this evil piece of shit made whilst he was committing his sex acts, his sex crimes. So the judge essentially came to a decision in regards to the sentencing, and he's been sentenced to 30 years in jail with a non-parole period of 28 years. So again, that is the heaviest ever sentence for a convicted rapist in Western Australia. So in that, if we read that part, I suppose, I don't know, are we supposed to be pleased with that? It's good that it is a heavy sentence. It's good that the non-parole period is very close to the full term. But it's still not enough. Why isn't it more? Why isn't it a life sentence? He is a danger to society. He has been convicted of raping 13 women. Perhaps that's all of his victims. Perhaps it isn't. I guess to an extent, it's kind of by the by. 13 women have been raped by this scumbag. This isn't somebody that needs to be a part of society. He does not need to be walking the streets. Again, he was a serving police officer during the times that he raped 12 of the 13 victims. So he was found guilty on every charge on October the 17th, found guilty of drugging and raping 13 women that he met on dating apps between 2007 and 2018. The judge said that he used unprecedented sadism in a string of degrading sex acts on his victims. I'm going to read this part out. You may not like it. Well, you're not going to like it. I'm going to read it out. These degrading sex acts that he performed on his victims included urinating in their mouths, making them perform sexual acts on their pets, and hitting them. He was a senior officer, and he mostly used online dating apps to find his victims. He exploited his reputation as a police officer. He was once nominated for Officer of the Year, and he used that to gain his victims' trust. So I've got to say, as far as I understand, he did this in quite a public way. You know, he wasn't masked at the time. He didn't do this in the dark. He didn't, he presented himself as who he is to his victims, meaning he presented himself as Adrian Moore. He presented himself as a police officer. And then proceeded to attack, assault, rape his multiple victims. He used a computer system to look up the details of some of his victims. The first report of Adrian Moore's long list of crimes came from a victim who was also another police officer. So another police officer was a rape victim of this scumbag. She made a complaint to Western Australia Police Internal Affairs Unit, and subsequently this scumbag was arrested at his home in the southeastern Perth suburb of Kelmscott in 2018. The police raided his home. They found a document. I'm going to read out the title of this document. It's quite unpleasant. Girls I've Fucked, 2016. That document included the names and the locations and what he did to the victims. He gave a score to each of the victims. I feel bad about reading that out. Should I have read that out? This is an evil, sadistic piece of shit. 13 rape victims. He was a police officer at the time for almost all of the crimes. 87 sex crimes in total. Sadistic, degrading, humiliating, involves some level of bestiality. He was once voted Officer of the Year. Thankfully, the victims, all of them, all that we know of, were brave enough to take part of the trial. Within the trial, they suffered because of it. They had to endure watching, listening to video recordings that he made during the attacks. What a sick cunt. This guy is going to spend at least 28 years in jail. I can be happy with that. 28 years. I'm glad this guy is locked up for 28 years in jail. That part's good, but it should be more. Why can't it be life in prison? Again, why would you want this scumbag walking the streets? Why would you want him free? He's 52 now. If he comes out in 28 years, okay, he's 80. Okay, he's an old man at that point, but what use is he to society? As you release him, so now you've got to put him into a tax-paid nursing home. So nurses have to care for a dying rapist. I'm going to say well done. It's not the right words, but I mean, congratulations, I guess, to the victims for being extremely brave and being a part of the trial. Well done. I'm glad that he's been convicted. I just wish it was a longer sentence. Going to wrap things up at this point. Take care.